Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you all of the books that I've rated 5 stars in the year 2023. So far, I have read 190 books this year. My Goodreads says that it's around 75,000 pages read, which is insane. Out of the 190 that I've read, I think I've given about 25 5 stars. I didn't count the exact number, but I think it's around there. I wouldn't say I'm the most strict when it comes to rating books. I'm a little bit lenient, but still 25 out of 190. I wouldn't say, that's pretty good. I'm gonna start with the physical ones, and then we will jump into the ones that I read on Kindle Unlimited. Most of the books that I read are romance books, and most of the books that I'm gonna talk about today are contemporary romance, maybe a few rom-coms here and there. But I do have a couple lit fic books, dark academia, fantasy, a historical fiction, and yeah, that's it. Dark romance, contemporary romance. First up, we have A Little Life. Now, this book, unlike all of my other 5-star reads, actually took me a really long time to get through. It took me 2 months to read this book, and I am a binge reader through and through. It normally does not take me that long to get through a book. I had to put this book down so often because it was just continuing to break me over and over again. When I was reading it, I was thinking like, oh, it can't get worse from here. It can't get worse. You sit there the whole time reading it and you're like, I don't know how much further down we can go. Like, we have to go up from here. You don't. You don't. This was one of the most heartbreaking books that I've ever read, and I really liked how the author kind of like brought me into the book a little bit. I felt like as I was reading it, I was feeling every single emotion of every single character, and it was just a really epic tragedy, I guess. Next up, we have Beach Read by Emily Henry. This was a reread for me, and I yet again rated it 5 stars. After my reread of it, I actually loved the book more than I did after reading it the first time. I have a soul connection to this book at this point, and Emily Henry really did something to me with the writing in this book. And Gus, he is the love of my life, and I love him so much. When I look at you, I feel overwhelmed that you exist. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I just finished this book yesterday. This is a fantasy dark academia read, and this is the first book in the Alex Stern series. The third book hasn't came out yet. I did read Hellbent earlier this year, but I gave that one 4.5 stars. This is my comfort book. This was also my 4th time reading it. I read it 3 times this year. Well, I read it and then I listened to the audiobook twice because I'm addicted to it, and the storyline and the characters and everything that it embodies and the vibes. And yes, this is a very hit or miss book though. Everybody I talk to either hates this book or loves this book. I love it, and I obviously give it 5 stars for a reason. My favorite thing about it is that it's based in Yale, and so it very much gives those like dark academia vibes. Like, it's kind of spooky. There's some magic and grays, aka ghost, intertwined, and there's these underground societies at Yale. I just love where it takes me while I'm reading it. Love Theoretically by Ellie Hazelwood. This is very much a rom-com, and I love this book. I read The Love Hypothesis by Ellie Hazelwood last year, and I can't say that I absolutely loved it, but I think I want to give that one a reread because if I loved this one, I should probably love that one. This was like a 6 out of 5 star book for me. I just had so much fun while reading this book, reading about Jack and Elsie. They're like rival physicists in a way, and everything about it just kept me giggling and smiling and kicking my feet in the air. Ellie Hazelwood really outdid herself with this one. Carrie SoDo is back. I read this, and when I was starting it, I was like, I don't give a shit about tennis. Am I gonna like this book? The answer is yes. I actually listened to the audiobook and then got my hands on a hardcover after. The audiobook was amazing. This is about Carrie SoDo, obviously, and her comeback in tennis. Like, she stops playing and then she has a comeback to win a championship. Like, follows Carrie's entire life, all of her trials, everything she goes through to be the best tennis player. And for the first half of it, I wasn't even technically rooting for her. I didn't even know if I liked her. By the end of it, I was like, hell yeah, you did that. Like, you did that, girl. Even if you were kind of a bitch at some point, and some points I didn't necessarily agree with your mindset and your inner monologue, like, you really did the damn thing. Butcher and Blackbird. You're like, Heather, please shut up about that book. No. No. I think this is one of my favorite reads of the year. This could be my favorite read of the year. This is a dark romance. If you're gonna read this, you have to check every single trigger warning, but also take a few of those trigger warnings in the middle there with a grain of salt, because one of the trigger warnings is accidental cannibalism, and it's okay. and just know it's gonna be okay. And there's also trigger warning for cannibalism, but also know that's gonna be okay as well. This is a dark romantic comedy by Bryn Weaver, and the way this book was executed was just mwah! It's two serial killers who unalive serial killers, and the way Bryn had me laughing my ass off while reading this entire book was just astonishing, because I'm laughing my ass off and I'm like, I don't think I should be laughing, but here we are. The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Okay, when I read this book, I actually gave it 4 stars, and then I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I couldn't get it out of my head, and I wanted to reread it, and I would go back and reread little paragraphs and chapters here and there, so I had to bump her up to 5 stars. This is a dark academia book, basically just rich kids doing like weird shit. I don't know how else to explain it, but I absolutely loved it. A lot of people say this book is really slow and boring. It is slow. Boring? I wouldn't say so. Happy Place by Emily Henry. This book came out this year, and it should not be called Happy Place. It should be called Sad Place of Despair, but there is a happy ending. I sobbed while reading this book. Cried my eyes out like a baby. This was a second chance romance. Harriet and Wynne in this book were engaged. They'd been together for a really long time. They were going on like a vacation with their friends for the summer. So they had to spend the whole time they're on this little vacation faking being engaged because they had broken off their engagement. And I was like, I was unwell, man. Unwell. The emotion Emily Henry like evoked from me while reading this book, I was screaming at it like, just love each other. Just please love each other. And also the way they broke up. Excuse I think I need to reread this book. Babble. This book utterly destroyed me. If you've been keeping up with Vlogmas, you know I finished this earlier this week, and I was bouncing back and forth between the book and the audiobook. The audio narration of this, absolutely wonderful. This book is not escapism. It is so devastating. There's magic intertwined in the storyline as well, so there's a little bit of a fantasy element. Not escapism at all, but a very good read. And I thought it was incredibly well written. Dense, but well written. The Mindfuck series, Jesus Christ, this book is huge. Check the trigger warnings. This is about Lana Myers, who is a serial killer who dates an FBI agent who is head on the case hunting for her, but he thinks it's a man. But it's actually his, like, what is she, 5'2"? It's actually his 5'2" girlfriend. Iconic, out of this world. It's broken up into 5 different books within this big book. Also free on Kindle Unlimited. But the 5 books, there's a cliffhanger at the end of like the first 3. And so you get through it and you're like, oh my god. And then you start the next one and you're like, oh. The Bronze Horsemen. This is a historical romance. And I did not expect to like this book in the slightest. It's centered around war. There's also a love triangle in this book between 2 sisters who both like the same man, except one of the sisters doesn't know that her sister likes her man. It was a shit show. And that happening with the war going on, it was just devastating and heartbreaking over and over again. But the way the author wrote and kind of fully immersed you into the book was just amazing. You do, while reading this book, have to remember it was a different time. So some of the things that happen throughout this book, you're like, oh, that would not fly in today's time. What are we doing? It was a different time. Twisted Games. This was actually the first book that I read this year, and it was a reread. It's just a hot bodyguard romance. That's it. I had DNF'd like 5 books at the beginning of this year, and I was losing my mind. It was like January 4th, and I was like, I haven't even gotten through a book. I haven't even gotten past 15 pages with every book that I've started, so I'm just gonna go to one of my comfort reads. Gave this one a reread, absolutely loved it. Reese can do no wrong. He didn't even need to grovel because he really didn't do anything wrong. I love him. There will be no Reese slander ever here. Minks by Sophie Lark. I devoured this book. Also the art that is in here, the illustrations. Where is it? Give me one. Oh, like, shut up, man. This is a dark romance. Check the trigger warnings and also check the tropes before you go into this book, because there are a few tropes that some people really don't fuck with, so you need to read up about the book before you go into it. This is a billionaire romance. The thing is, Ramsey, the MMC in this book, he wants Blake, an escort in New York City. He wants to be her only client. Blake only takes 3 clients at a time, and Ramsey's like, I want to buy all 3 spots. I want to be your only client. And she's like, I don't do that. Because she doesn't want to get any lines blurred, anything intertwined. She's like, I don't do that. And he's like, give me all 3 spots. Reckless by Elsie Silver. This is a cowboy, kind of a cowboy romance. Oh my God, just thinking about Theo. This book and Heartless by Elsie Silver, best in the series. This is it kind of a no, it's not really second chance, pregnancy trope. Kind of a surprise pregnancy though, but not in the way you're thinking if you haven't read this book or heard anything about it. Theo doesn't know he's a dad. Surprise! You're a daddy. I still can't stop thinking about this one scene in this book when Winter is at dinner with her family, her sister's family, and Theo, and someone like bad mouths Winter. Theo is like, shut the fuck up when you're talking to the mother of my child, or something like that. Ah! Or he says something like, keep the mother of my child's name out of your fucking mouth. I don't know. I'll put the exact thing he says right here, but I was like, damn. And those are all my physical books, I think. Oh my gosh, no. Wait, do I own? Oh, no, there's one more physical. Kiss the Sky by Kristen Becker Ritchie. I don't know, this is like the 4th or the 5th book in the Addicted Calloway Sisters series. I still haven't even finished the series. I've only read up until Hot House Flower. No, I read Thrive. This was about Rose and Connor. This was the first book that focused on Rose and Connor. And let me tell you, Rose and Connor are elite. Nothing can top them 2 together. Rivals to lovers. They speak French to each other so no one can understand what they're saying, except for one person. They're both so intelligent, and Connor, I just can't, I love him so much. I think that's all for my physical books now. The rest of them I read on Kindle Unlimited. Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. This is a romance book. The tropes in it are pregnancy trope, friends to lovers. This book is easily in my top 3 for the year. If you don't like the pregnancy trope in a romance book, please read this book and it might change your mind, because when done well, the pregnancy trope, I think it is just beautiful and amazing. What Saves Us? This is also the pregnancy trope in a way. The more I think about this book though, the more I'm like, Heather, do we really give it 5 stars? Because the MMC says the phrase mama so much. I like can't stop thinking about and hyperfixating on that. So I think I give this book 5 stars, but no, if you read this book, you may absolutely not think it is 5 stars. I binged this book. I binged it so fast, I don't even know if I fully processed everything. So this is one of those 5-star reads where it's like, this might just be a me thing. I liked it. I had so much fun with it. The MMC in this book, I think his name's Shane, utterly obsessed with the FMC. Utterly obsessed. Oh my gosh, I forgot. I did really like the representation of postpartum depression in this book though, and the way so many people around the FMC's life were just always asking about the baby and telling her like she's fine, basically like her postpartum depression wasn't real and she needed to get over it and all of this, and Shane was just there to kind of like believe her. I don't know, and like treat her like a fucking human being, and was just there for her in the way that nobody else was while she was really struggling. The Right Move by Liz Tomford. This is a 6 out of 5 star book for me. Ryan Shea, him and Indy together were so cute. The tropes in this book are best friend's brother, forced proximity because Indy and Ryan end up moving in together. Indy, the FMC, gets cheated on and she needs somewhere to live, and she moves in with Ryan, who is her best friend's brother. And then they start fake dating. I need to reread this book. I loved it so much. Ryan was just perfect. Like by the end of it, he learned sign language so he could communicate with her dad. And it made me tear up. Snowed In by Catherine Walsh. This is a holiday romance book. Holiday romance books are normally like 3-star reads. I feel like every single holiday romance book I read, I'm like, man, that was like 3.5 stars. Nothing crazy. They're always just okay. This was iconic. Set in Ireland. I know this man has an accent. I need to look up if there's an audiobook, because if there is, the man in there better have an Irish accent. I would go feral for that. Just like reading it in my head. I don't know if you could read books in accents, but in my head I can. I was reading it, and every time he was talking, it was an accent up there, and I was eating it up. Megan was going home for the holidays for the first time in years after she left her ex-fiance, and Christian, who was also from the same hometown as her, they ended up meeting right before the holidays I think they live in Dublin, maybe. He knows she's scared to go home for the holidays because of everything that had happened and she hadn't been there for a while. And also he wanted his family off his back for asking him, like, I don't know, questions or whatever. So he's like, we should fake date so I can help you and you can help me. And so they go home for the holidays and they're like fake dating. The last book that I gave 5 stars to in 2023 was There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. This is a dark romance. Check all trigger warnings. This book is a part of a duology. I didn't necessarily love the second book. I gave it like 3.5 stars, but this one, 5 stars. Loved it. Mara is a struggling artist, like struggling, barely affording to live. And Alistair is a wealthy ass artist who has made it, and he really becomes obsessed with her, like to a psychotic, scary, not even scary, but in the real world, if this happened, you'd be like, I need a restraining order. Kind of to that sense. But when you're reading it in fiction, you're like, oh, he is obsessed with her. One of the early scenes in the book, when they first meet, he finds her nearly dead on the side of the road because she had been attacked, and he just walks around her and goes on his merry way. This is pre him becoming obsessed with her. Finds her nearly dead on the side of the road and is like, meh, carry on. He's crazy, but I like it. And those are all the books that I rated 5 stars in 2023. If you rated any of these 5 stars, or if you read any of these and you loved them, let me know. Or if you fucking hated them, don't let me know. Please, actually, like, don't. I was gonna say let me know. Don't let me know. I don't care. You'll just make me sad.